Welcome, and let's talk about what it looks like to create inbound demand generation using inbound marketing in your business so you can generate more sales leads and get more clients who are raising their hands ready to say yes. Now, let's talk about the dream. For so long, we've been taught how to use outbound strategies that really force us to chase demand and chase leads and feel like we're spending every bit of our time on convincing people. When in reality, the easiest and more fruitful way to be able to get clients into your business is to use a more inbound demand generation strategy. So let's break down what this looks like and how you can actually leverage this strategy so you have clients coming to you instead of you chasing down leads. So if you're new around here, my name is Nazat Chaveri. I'm a business growth strategist and 18-year marketing expert, and I help my clients turn their message into their movement using a Netflix-inspired sales system to get more leads, saying yes to them and selling themselves. So let's talk about what this actually looks like. You want clients who are coming to you, but right now you're chasing that demand. That means you're using things like cold outreach or ads. You're essentially pushing yourself onto people in hopes that it's creating some sort of interest. Either way, you need to determine whether or not you want people seeking you out, which is inbound, or if you want to be seeking them out. So how do you create inbound demand so that people are popping into your comments or your DMs saying, how can I work with you? What are the next steps? Now, in order to understand how to create inbound marketing demand, you need to understand the difference between that inbound and outbound in the first place. So outbound marketing and outbound demand is essentially a push. You're either fighting for their attention, and I use the example of being the annoying little kid who's jumping up and down and begging for someone to pay attention to you. So you're using things that essentially are trying to get people to drag them and push them into seeing you and whether or not that you're the right solution, right? Pulling people or using more of an inbound approach is allowing people being drawn to you, eagerly reading every post you have, hanging on to every word like it's gold, and it's creating this instant desire. Okay, because the last thing you want to be able to do in your business is feel like you're chasing or hunting leads. You want people to hunt you down, to come to you and creating that demand. So how do we develop and generate inbound demand in a way that moves people into action, not simply into attention? So that's our first point, is are you setting yourself up for attention or action? The truth of the matter is our marketing has nothing to do with virality. Everywhere you turn, it seems like this is the most talked about tactic when it comes to online marketing and marketing in your business. But what you need to understand is that whether your business is set up for optimizing for attention or action is the difference between you signing clients and you getting followers. Attention is simply about the number of likes you have or how viral your content is. It makes you and your audience feel good momentarily, but it's quickly fleeting and fading. And by tomorrow, you become just another person that they've forgotten all about and moved on to something else that they can clap for. You're told that you're inspiring, and people comment on your post saying things like you're gorgeous, to your beautiful curated images, or I just love what you have to say. And it feels surface level because that's what it is. It's surface level. It's not demand. It's simply attention. So just like when you run an ad and it asks you to optimize for what type of event you want to create, the same thing goes in how we leverage our marketing in order to understand what type of response or result we want from it. Do we want attention or do we want action? So if you're trying to figure out why people seem interested because they're interacting with you, but it's not actually moving and triggering them into action and saying, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need, you're not being seen as a priority. You're simply seen as interesting. Now, the problem is if you're optimizing your marketing and your process to make everyone feel good, including you, those likes and those views aren't actually changing your bottom line, okay? So we need to know that our goal when it comes to being able to create growth and getting more leads who are actually raising their hands and ready to say yes, is that we need to be optimizing for action and not attention. So as an example, on our TikTok videos, sometimes we barely have 200 views at a time. But listen, one video on TikTok has landed us 30K in new client revenue because we optimize for action, not attention. Speaking to people who are already in motion and seeking next steps is your fastest way to speak to people who you want to take action rather than those that you want for attention. So the old school ways of pain point marketing and speaking to people who aren't problem aware means that you're only extending that sales cycle, but you're also only seeking attention and not action. Your goal is to speak to people who already want to solve a problem, and that should be their leading factor in creating your content that speaks to grabbing their action and not simply their attention. You want to help people take the momentum that they've already developed of deciding that they want to solve something and optimizing your runway for them to be able to achieve that. Ultimately, you want to be able to set up your inbound marketing strategy so that it's actually moving people into action. And the fastest and easiest way to do this is to understand how you target people who are already in motion and seeking out a solution. So let's move to our next point where we talk about relevance and what it means to actually create a disruptive market. So 5 years ago, I spent an entire week researching and developing a training on time blocking. Truth of the matter is I had never time blocked in my entire life. So why was I creating an entire training on it? I saw everyone else talking about how important it was. And I decided that in order to stay relevant or involve myself in a trend, I had to discuss those same topics. Now we see this happening everywhere. With information so readily available on the internet, we're seeing an age of relevance. But here's the truth. The same conversation you're trying to add relevance to, your audience has already heard 100 times over, and now your message has only turned into white noise. You can't create inbound demand with a white noise message. The truth of the matter is, the more vanilla and the more same sounding your message is, then the more outbound your marketing becomes instead of inbound. Why? Because you're now trying to fight for attention and a space in the market versus creating demand on a message that actually disrupts. Why? Because people are attracted to disruption, right? They want to hear something that breaks the white noise. It takes them out of the mindless scroll of monotonous information they've heard 100 times before and triggers their brain into deciphering new information. So right now they're scrolling and they're scrolling and they're scrolling and everything's starting to sound the same, your posts included. So while that information goes and gets processed into short-term memory, it becomes the forgettable stuff because you've failed to create something that has new information for them. So we want to be able to create a disruption in their thinking because it actually forces them to take the information that you've now presented them with and rationalize it on whether and how to decipher that new information. This simple act forces them to expend energy on thinking about what you say, and therefore your message becomes something they can't stop thinking about. So not only do you now disrupt their thought pattern, but you're disrupting the noise in the industry, which means that you've now created the fastest path to creating demand instead of chasing it. So look at companies like Airbnb, Uber, Netflix, Apple. What do all those companies have in common? They came into their respective dusty industry and disrupted how things were done. They created a message that disrupted the current market space. So even though no one believed that you could have music in the palm of your hands, it happened when Apple created an iPod. The idea of traveling the world and finding adventure was always difficult and required planning until Airbnb came around. And not only did it give homeowners an opportunity to list their homes or rooms, it gave people the opportunity to travel the world at a moment's notice. They broke the rules. They crushed the idea of maintaining the monotony of relevance and instead created an approach that innovated and created new relevance and therefore demand. So the second piece of the puzzle when it comes to generating demand is knowing how to disrupt the current thought patterns and disrupt the industry so that you now create demand of people coming to you because they don't see the same thing that they see everywhere else that they see with you. The third and final piece is where we talk about developing what we call connect the dot connections. So we can't talk about demand generation and inbound marketing without talking about the journey that we actually take our clients on and how we actually connect those dots for them. The expectation that people will come chasing you down without having to complete a picture for them is what keeps business owners stuck in outbound marketing tactics. The cold hard truth is if you want people that come to you, you have to give them a reason to think of you as the solution because people are inundated with information in this digital age. And it's why so many business owners are simply focusing on the attention of marketing that they fail to know how to turn that attention into monetization. Now imagine showing up to a party and they've given you some appetizer, but they're missing all the other components of a successful party. They don't have the drinks, they don't have the music, they don't have the entertainment, and heck, they forgot to invite people. This is what so many people are doing when it comes to their marketing. They've created the appetizers to draw people in, but they're missing all the key elements of what allows them to nurture and convert people to get them to do things quickly and effectively. In your business, if you're dependent on you being the guide for every lead that comes into your world, or worse, your leads have to try and figure out what steps to take next on their own, then your business growth will always be throttled. So I want you to do a quick audit. If people enter your ecosystem today from whatever traffic source you're using, how easily can they move themselves to a yes? How quickly can they sell themselves on working with you? And you need to understand what steps do they need to take in order to make an effective decision, and have those steps been given to them like a map in a hidden treasure chest. Does that map touch on their human behavior for decisions, or does it simply inundate them with more information? So much of marketing right now that's using outbound tactics is simply adding to the noise and giving more information rather than developing a strategy that actually moves people into action. If you want to be able to wake up like my clients do to booked calls and messages in their inbox saying, how can I work with you? You're exactly who I need, even though that lead just found them and came into their ecosystem last night, because moving people into action comes from a place of you being able to connect the dots for them that actually gives them the reason to take action. So to recap the things we discussed here today, the 3 common things that you need in order to generate demand into your business starts with number 1, being able to understand how to seek the action and not attention by really speaking to people who are already in motion and knowing how to speak to those people who are seeking out solutions. Number 2 is understanding that we disrupt the message and disrupt the noise. So your message no longer becomes something where you feel like you're pushing people, but instead it's pulling people in because they're attracted to it and they're finding the value in what you bring because you've disrupted the industry and disrupted the message. And number 3 is being able to develop a connect the dots connection for your audience so that when they do come into your world and you have developed that attention and action, you can actually turn it into the action of a monetization and turning into a sales lead of someone saying yes. That doesn't happen by chance, and we don't want to leave that up to chance. What we want to be able to do is connect the dots for them so that they can get to that result all on their own and sell themselves. So this is exactly what we do in my Easy Yes method. We develop those same strategies in order to create the movement of creating inbound marketing and demand generation, because the truth of the matter is you can't keep hunting for leads. You can't keep chasing after demand. You want to be able to create it. So the 3 things that we do in order to accomplish that is number 1, we leverage messaging and positioning. We create a proprietary methodology that not only communicates and articulates the value of what you bring, but does so in an innovative way by identifying the gaps in the market and solving for those gaps. So immediately we're creating that disruption in the messaging, but also in how we position you, because we understand what's missing and create something that solves for that gap. This results in my clients being able to 3 to 5x their price points and have clients leading to them coming in as an inbound strategy because they know that they're the only solution available. Number 2 is developing a sales system that really does connect the dots for them. Knowing that people who are already in motion, who are seeking out solutions, really need to follow a human behavior pattern of decision-making means that we actually hold that power in our hands to be able to easily support people in making decisions. So what we do is we leverage what I call a bingeable authority system, which is inspired by Netflix, in getting people to take that attention and turn it into action through a very specific strategy of moving people through a step-by-step process in a short period of time using bingeable content that's developed from your proprietary methodology. So not only do we take what we've developed in proprietary methodology, but we're leveraging the mechanism of how people consume information and quickly make decisions to let them make those micro decisions along the way, meaning that now we're turning cold leads into pre-sold clients who are selling themselves on why they want to work with you, meaning they're sending you a message before they even book a call and say, I already know I want to work with you. What are the next steps? Because we've leveraged a bingeable authority system. And the third and final piece is being able to retain those clients long-term. And the best and only way to be able to do that is to be able to deliver on the promise that you give them at scale. Most people haven't set their business up to be able to deliver at scale. And that's exactly what we look at. We look at how can we actually deliver on that promise that we've given to people through your delivery system so that you can be able to make sure that your clients are getting world-class results, whether you're working with 1 or 100 clients. If you want to learn more about how to use the Easy Yes method to create inbound marketing and lead generation and be able to have clients who are pre-selling themselves using our Easy Yes method, then go ahead and click the link down below to check out our free mini series where we outline exactly how this works and how we use this Netflix inspired sales system to have your clients selling themselves without you chasing and hunting down leads.